Rome, August 10th, 258 AD. The sun is merciless, burning down on the city of marble and blood. A restless crowd gathers in the square, drawn by the promise of a spectacle. Soldiers shove a young man, barely 30, into the center. Heavy iron chains cut into his wrists, but his eyes are calm. In front of him waits a nightmare of Roman cruelty. A massive iron grill suspended above glowing embers. The heat is already scorching, waves of fire licking at the air. The crowd leans forward, waiting for screams. Soldiers rip the clothes from his body, stretch him across the red-hot bars, and bind his limbs so he cannot escape. The smell hits first, flesh sizzling, skin blistering, muscle tightening in the flames. The executioners feed the fire, expecting the man to howl, to beg, to break. But instead, he looks up, his face lit not by agony, but by a strange, almost radiant peace. Then, with a voice steady and sharp enough to cut through the smoke, he delivers words no one could believe. "Turn me over. This side is already roasted." That man was Lawrence of Huesca, deacon of Rome. His death was not only one of the most brutal in history, it transformed him into one of Christianity's most revered martyrs. But how did he end up strapped to that grill in the first place? To answer that, we need to rewind. Lawrence was born around the year 225 in Huesca, in what is now Spain. Raised by Christian parents, he grew up steeped in faith. As a student in Caesarea Augusta, modern-day Zaragoza, he met a priest named Sixtus, a friendship that would shape his destiny. When Sixtus was elected pope in Rome in 257, Lawrence followed him to the Eternal City, where he was entrusted with one of the most powerful positions in the Church, Archdeacon of Rome. This was no honorary title. Lawrence became responsible for the Church's wealth, the distribution of alms to the poor, and the guardianship of sacred treasures. It was a sacred duty, but also a dangerous one. Emperor Valerian had just unleashed one of the bloodiest waves of Christian persecution the empire had ever seen. In 257, his first edict demanded bishops, priests, and deacons sacrifice to the Roman gods or face exile. A year later, he escalated. Refusal meant instant death. On August 6, 258, the storm struck. As Pope Sixtus II celebrated Mass in the catacombs of Praetextatus, soldiers burst in. They seized him and 4 of his deacons, dragging them to execution. All were beheaded. Lawrence, the young deacon, ran to his spiritual father as they led him away. His heart shattered, but the Pope only whispered a chilling prophecy. "I do not leave you, my son. I go before you. In 3 days, you will follow me." And the prophecy held true. The Roman prefect, knowing Lawrence was keeper of the Church's treasure, demanded he hand it over within 3 days. Lawrence agreed. But instead of gathering gold and silver, he spent those days giving away everything the Church owned. Coins, relics, sacred vessels, placing them in the hands of the poor, the widowed, the sick, the outcasts. When the deadline came, he appeared before the prefect with a crowd of beggars, cripples, and the elderly. With unshakable conviction, he declared, "Here are the treasures of the Church." The prefect, humiliated, was consumed with rage. He ordered Lawrence's death. Not swift, not merciful, but agonizing. The grill was prepared, the fire stoked, the metal glowing like the sun itself. Lawrence was thrown onto the searing iron, his flesh crackling as the crowd recoiled at the smell of human meat roasting alive. And then came the impossible moment. The condemned deacon, his body already charred, raised his head and mocked his executioners. "Turn me over. This side is done." Even in torment, he turned pain into defiance and suffering into testimony. Witnesses swore that instead of the stench of death, a sweet fragrance rose from his burning body. Some Roman senators who watched were so shaken by his unearthly calm that they converted to the very faith he died defending. After his death, Christians secretly recovered his body and buried him along the Via Tiburtina. Centuries later, when Christianity was finally legalized, Emperor Constantine raised a basilica over Lawrence's grave, San Lorenzo fuori le mura, one of Rome's 7 great pilgrimage churches. His story echoed across Europe. In Spain, his homeland, King Philip II built the grand monastery of San Lorenzo de el Escorial in the very shape of a grill, a permanent tribute to the martyr who defied an empire with courage and wit. Paintings by masters like Fra Angelico, Titian, and Rubens captured the horror of his burning, but also the serenity on his face. Poets like Prudentius immortalized his faith in haunting verses. Lawrence became the patron saint of the poor, of librarians guarding the church's treasures, and, ironically enough, of cooks. And every year, on August 10th, as the night sky erupts in a cascade of meteors known as the Tears of St. Lawrence, people remember the young deacon who turned the flames of death into a symbol of hope. So let me ask you, if you were in his place chained to that burning iron, would you find the strength to laugh in the face of agony? Or would fear consume you? If you enjoyed this story, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more dark, dramatic journeys into the forgotten corners of history.